People who grew up in third world countries, what was the biggest shock for you when moving into a developed country? This will possibly get buried, but finally an AskReddit I can relate to. 1. Toilet paper. Toilet paper everywhere. You don't have to bring your own to a public restroom because there's one in every stall here in America, and it's free. 2. Restaurant service and food abundance. You asked for a medium well steak, but was slightly overcooked. You send it back to the kitchen and you get a new one cooked for you, and the server even apologizes for it. 3. Black people. White people. Asian people. People with natural red hair. In my 15 years living in a small town in Central America, I saw maybe 2 black people, a handful of white people, the 1 Chinese restaurant owner, and 0 redheads. Now I get to see all kinds of people from all over the world, with different experiences and backgrounds. It's kinda neat. How the smallest inconvenience can make people rant like they have serious depression. Apparently humans always worry about something or the other. Like a worry list that always has to have something in it. So even if all your big problems are cleared out, they end up being replaced by the next set of problems, no matter how trivial. Yes, we are like camels, but instead of water we store anxiety. You and me baby are nothing but camels. Well, I know what's gonna be stuck in my head the rest of the day. My wife's first time in the US, she burst out laughing at how a 4-way stop worked and just couldn't believe people actually followed the rules. What's annoying at 4-way stop signs without lights in the US is not someone barreling past a stop out of turn. I've seen that maybe once in over a decade of driving. It's when someone thinks they're being polite by giving up their turn. No, fuck you, you're next, we're expecting you to go next. It costs us all time if you don't go next. Yeah, it generally works, even though people don't seem to understand the basic rules. Person first at the intersection goes first. It is irrelevant who went before you. If you hit the intersection at the same time, car on right goes first. You now know everything you need to know about 4-way stops. No, BMW owner, you don't get to go first because you are so important. No, white work truck, you don't go first because you are in a hurry. No, soccer mom van, you don't go first because your kid is late to their dance recital. Buy a clue, people. Not getting suspicious when a stranger talks to you on the street. I can't get over it, I get anxious every time, but people in Canada don't seem to mind at all. Where I come from, when a stranger approaches you, you knock the fuck out. I'm from South England and no strangers would talk to each other, you'd be considered an absolute lunatic. If you did want to talk about something, you'd have to strike a conversation about something we can all relate to, like the shitty weather. But I've heard about how nice it is in Canada, and my friend was shocked when people just randomly started talking to her on public transport, but she welcomed it. I lived in England for a few years and noticed that too. But in my experience it was mainly due to just not wanting to talk to people, as opposed to the fear of getting robbed or assaulted. And to be honest, I respect that, very relatable as an introvert. When I was in the Marines I had a friend that was from extreme rural Africa. So we took him to 3D shows and such. He had been in the US for around 6 months, but even things like TV was an amazing luxury to him. Someone in the group picked up one at a pawn shop off post and gave it to him, and he was just amazed that someone would just give him a TV. Something nifty. He had it set up so direct deposits would go to an account his village had access to. His salary as an E2 in the Navy made his family semi-royalty in the village. Grocery stores like Walmart, Publix, and Kroger. Huge and vast, have air conditioning, massive variety and tons of stuff I have never heard of. Huge culture shock to me and my father in 2001, since we had no major grocery stores in Bosnia at the time. Publix rules. Lived in Florida for a while before moving back to Ohio. God, I miss their subs so much. I had one a couple months ago when I was in Richmond, VA, and it was so fucking good, it was like a trip down memory lane with my taste buds. Pub subs are Florida's #1 most cherished commodity. Everybody loves them. Everybody. That things would get fixed. I had a vending machine in my dorm building, it broke down and said well shit guess no more vending machine. Absolutely flabbergasted when I saw the machine repaired and working. Edit. Change dorm room to dorm building. In my school, we have vending machines in the cafeteria. My money got stuck inside, and I was told I could call Coca-Cola for a refund. They asked me some questions, and they sent a person to fix it, and they're mailing me 2 coupons for free drinks. That's pretty neat. And makes sense from a business standpoint as well to have technicians or contractors to fix those ASAP so they can continue getting money, fairly, into their vending machines. My roommate's co-worker is from Guatemala. He says that one of the best things about the US is that when you call for an ambulance, one actually shows up even if you aren't rich or important. Oof, that's sad. It may bankrupt you, but it does show up. LOL, I was in Vegas when I needed an ambulance. I'm from Canada so I was nervous about the incoming invoice and oof, it was large. Thank God my travel insurance covered it all. The quality of the public infrastructure and how respectful city planning is with pedestrians. Sydney is full of beautiful little gifts in the shape of shortcuts, stairs, parks, pathways. Everywhere. It truly is a joy to just walk through the city. Also, dogs are more polite than people where I come from. Sydney is the first Western settled city I visited last year, and I can't thank my lucky stars enough that I am moving there permanently in a few months. I used to live in Sydney for a few months, and I loved just walking through this city, it's amazing. And I always felt so safe, even at 2 a.m. I visited my cousins in the US once. I was surprised that your houses don't have walls around them. There were only those fences at the side and back that pretty much anyone can jump over. Where I live the only houses who don't have walls surrounding them are those in compounds or subdivisions that have roaming security guards. Paid security guards, not volunteers, like the neighborhood watch kind of thing. Edit. To the people asking, I'm from the Philippines, but it's interesting to see that other countries carry this tradition practice. Edit. Not really a wealthy family, but not really a from dangerous neighborhood. It's pretty standard here to have at least a 2-meter tall concrete walls if you have middle income, but those poor ones just settle with barbed wire. What country? Edit. So apparently this is very common all across the world, including all of Latin America, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Pakistan, the Philippines, Indonesia, and probably more places. TBH, as a child in a developed country I didn't get this either. Fences are practically decoration. And windows are so fragile. Anyone could break into a house if they wanted to. But there's police, I guess, and usually the law will simply catch up with anyone who tries something like that in these countries. Edit. God dang, you people like to talk about your fences. I meant they were practically decoration in terms of security. I understand they have other purposes as well. Thank you everyone for the upvotes. This is my highest post and comment by far. I always assumed fences were more about privacy and animal containment than they were keeping people out. They are where I live. So I have a 4-foot wooden fence around a yard with 3 unlocked gates. Keeps the dogs in and the kids out. But, for example, I visited Mexico City last year. Around their yards are 6-foot tall masonry fences with coils of barbed wire on top, bars over the windows, and they do not park their cars on the street, they're behind locked gates. Safety when walking on the streets during night. When in Brazil, I used to wait for my wife on the bus stop from college. As she usually left college around 2200 hours, it was dangerous. We used to live on a central zone, and her college was also central. In Ireland, if she leaves a party at 3 o'clock, I don't get concerned at all. So great to live without being afraid. It took us about 1 year to relax. This happens a lot in South America. I'm from Chile and is the same. We as women can't walk at night alone. It's dangerous. I live in Ireland. It's quite safe here. Still be careful though. The one thing which baffled me is how there is an absence of petty crimes and how the shops in the city center were not worried about displaying their wares outside their shops. There was no risk of someone stealing those tiny stuffs. Also at night, the shops were just closed with their glass doors. No extra iron shutters with multiple locks and stuffs. Petty crime exists, and the loss is built into the prices. If there's a major break-in, the insurance will pay out and cover any losses. Price of the insurance is also built into the price of the wares. It's only when you get into very valuable merchandise or your store is targeted frequently where the insurance companies will require better security measures in order to cover the loss where you will see the difference. At this point, people know how easily they can be caught stealing. There are cameras everywhere and police, for the most part, will be able to trace the theft back to you. I grew up in the Philippines and we immigrated to Canada. When my mom first visited Philippines from Canada, I asked her how it was. She said Philippines was so dirty compared to Vancouver. I asked her why she didn't notice it before. Cause she had nothing to compare it to. For me the biggest shock was how people treated their pets. No disrespect to pet owners and pets. But I was so shocked on how people spend for their food, vet and stuff. When I was working on Safeway, people would buy from the deli meat for their pets. Where I came from, pets mostly ate dinner scraps. Or when we ate out we always took the chicken bones home to give to the dogs. And then I found out about vet bills. I was so shocked. In the Philippines when your pet gets sick, well you hoped he got better on their own. The concept of a vet was so foreign for me that it didn't occur to me that people actually study to become vets. I was telling my dad that people treat their pets here in Canada like human beings. And my dad says don't worry, we treat human beings in the Philippines like animals, so it balances out. Also universal healthcare. And basically go to any clinic and hospital you want. Philippines you have to have a down payment before you can get in the hospital. And it can get very expensive very fast. I remember going for the first time to the USA, going to the supermarket and not being able to choose eggs because small eggs, medium eggs, large eggs, free range, organics, super neon yellow yolk, mixed size eggs, caged hens, eggs, blue eggs, etc. etc. I went through the same for milk and butter. It was so stressful. At the same time in my country, I was not able to afford eggs. Guys, I ended up crying in a Walmart. Besides that, being able to feel safe, being able to take my phone out on the street without being robbed. Wear jewelry. It was the first time in years I could wear my gold earrings. Also, post. The post actually works. People just leave packages in front doors or safe place. There were letterboxes. Like what? How much food waste and general waste there is. In my country we would never throw food, we were very strict with portions and how we use food. I remember also taking my shoes to repair whenever they had holes, even taking them 2 more times after that. I had a lot of cultural shocks. Giant grocery stores are full of food and always fully stocked. Coming from Ukraine to USA in the 90s, my entire family's jaws dropped for hours. My dad's from Munich and my mom's from Krakow, and the stories about their childhoods are sometimes so different because of that. Like my mom will tell you how oranges were a delicacy that you only had for special occasions, while my dad will be like, oh, when we were bored, we used to throw them at each other for fun. Now my parents grew up in the 50s and 60s in Italy and told me many times that at Christmas the most common presents were peanuts, walnuts or oranges and stuff like that. Back in the 80s to 90s, there was a story about Soviet hockey players who came to New Jersey to play pro. Some of their teammates' wives took their wives to a supermarket. They started grabbing all the meat and coffee until they were told that it would be there the next time they came. My dad knew a Soviet man from the steel industry. The man was applying for refugee status or citizenship or something, and when he was finally here for good and free of his minders, my dad took him to a grocery store, one of the larger ones, although nothing like the superstores today. The man wandered around dumbfounded and finally asked, "Where are the lines?" My dad pointed him to the people in checkout. The discipline in driving. In my country, even when the signal light is color red, they just brush it off and continue accelerating. Fucking morons. Reminds me of this t-shirt I saw in Vietnam. In Montreal, a red light means you must honk while driving slower and worse through the intersection. If you blow a red light in Sweden, your plates are German. Picturing someone trying to put red light into their mouth. Haha, this reminds me of when I was married to someone from St. Lucia, 1989, and his 10-year-old sister came here to visit. I was driving us at nighttime. We were pretty much the only cars on the road. We stopped at a pretty long red light, and she asked me why I stopped in the middle of the road. I explained and she looked incredulous. She never brought it up again, but every time I would stop that night, she would look at me, look at the light, look at me, look at the light lol, and she could not have looked more confused if it turned to noon right there. In Guinea, they tried to set up the first traffic light in the whole country, and this happened so it was shut down in less than a year. Sounds like my country, Vietnam. LOL, I kinda half wished it weren't Vietnam until I saw your comment LOL. My 36 boyfriend, 30, is from Iran. He sleeps on a mattress even here in the UK. He doesn't understand why we all have beds. He still blushes when we hold hands. If we meet up and I say hello and kiss him on the cheek, he looks around as if he will get into trouble. He will not let me pay for anything whatsoever. He says it's for the man to look after his lady. He's only just got used to me pinching his bottom, and he quite likes it. Haha, he now does it to me. He's come a long way since we met, around 1 year ago. He was terribly shy and cautious in public. That is so cute. How old the houses are. I was expecting modern construction like in my country. I instead saw old buildings which, ironically, valued more than even the more modern ones. Old buildings are often closer to the city center, so it's also location. Plus they may have historical value. Location is insanely important. In my city, I've seen the exact same model house go for $100,000 more, from $400,000 to $500,000, because it was 15 minutes closer to downtown. 15 minutes is a lot though, especially if you mean by car. Then it's a fucking lot. How expensive many things are while certain things are very cheap, but there's always enough. I grew up in Costa Rica. When I moved to the US, everything was way cheaper. Then I realized how expensive everything in my country is. I mean, $13 for a small pizza is not okay. $13 for a small pizza is pretty stock standard here in Australia. Here in Switzerland we pay up to $30, which is why I never eat out. Norway feels you. The postal system. The logistics of delivering millions of letters to millions of homes on a daily basis is astonishing, especially at that price. The idea that I can send a letter across the country and have it reliably delivered the next or possibly even same day is truly impressive. Edit. Don't bother, 30 people have already made that email joke. I am astonished at this, and I have always lived in the US. We majorly take our postal system for granted. I think many people do. It's so mundane. But when you really sit there and give it thought, it's an incredibly efficient and well-oiled machine that accomplishes feats on a daily basis. I am late to this thread, but thought I would share some of the biggest ones for me. The ease at which the government runs. In most third world countries, something as simple as getting a passport could result in you standing around a police station for hours, only to be told you need a document from somewhere else, being sent there and told you are in the wrong place, or you need a different document, etc. In most first world countries you can find most of the answers to what you need online, and with little hassle. The level of produce available. I live in a fairly small town, but somehow can still find any produce I want from all over the world, fresh vegetables all year round, and non-local meat with no hassle. In most third world countries, if it isn't in season or doesn't grow there, it's insanely expensive or it's impossible to find. Police are actually helpful. There are a lot of people who complain about the police, but they're not beating you in the street and taking bribes from everyone as a rule instead of the exception. Anyone who had lived in a third world country knows what interacting with bad police is like. There's a lot that comes to mind, but those are definitely the biggest ones. I grew up in South Africa and have been living in England for 20 years. 1. Cars stop when you walk up to a pedestrian crossing. 2. Double-glazed windows are really good at keeping the warm in and the noise out. 3. I can walk around at night without thinking I'm going to get shot or robbed. 4. There are only a few people on building sites, and the buildings get built in a quick and organized manner. 5. When things break, someone will come and fix it. I could go on all day. Edit. Wow, this thread has gone wild. Wish I could reply to all comments, but there are a lot. These are just the humble observations of a SA guy living in northeast England. It has gotten even worse here in South Africa over the years. I still live in one of the safest areas in the country, but we still live as if we will be attacked if the window is left open. People's personal space is surprisingly vast. A newspaper article suggested that the personal distance between strangers in Argentina is the same of that of a couple in Canada. Canadian living in Mexico, I can totally believe that. This has maybe been one of my biggest challenges here, but also hilarious in a lot of ways. I can already imagine it. Loud greetings, hugs, friend enters your house unannounced and goes straight to the fridge, etc. You've got so much fresh water, you shit in it. Water you mean like from the toilet? Yeah. I could see how a developing country where getting drinkable water takes some effort, boil it, filter it or buy it. It's pretty weird to go to a developed country and find out that people crap in toilets with drinkable water and also shower in it. Part of it is sometimes simply that supply of water is much higher in developed countries. Rainfall in the UK keeps mountain reservoirs topped up, and because waterways are fairly clean and sewage is well treated, it's not hard to make water drinkable. The lights. So many lights, from street lamps, traffic lights, huge buildings lit up all night. Oh, and the highways blew my mind. They were so white and full of so many cars. I was 6 and I'll never forget that first drive from the airport to my new home in December. It was also my first time seeing snow. Edit. I joined Reddit a few days ago, and today I got some awards and coins I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with. Thank you. Also, I moved from a small southern Croatian village, the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia at the time, 1989, to Toronto. How things actually work. You can rely on your electricity not going out at least twice a day. If you buy something and it breaks, there's warranty with little to no hassle. Internet actually works more than it doesn't. Public transportation actually arrives, and shockingly, it does on time. If you hire a service, it'll actually be done and with an expectation of quality. The list goes on. Of course it's not perfect and there's shitty people everywhere, but that's the exception, not the rule. And it's a massive difference. My time in Japan has ruined this for me anywhere else. Their services, from construction to fast food, are above and beyond anything I've experienced anywhere I've traveled. That's not to diminish services elsewhere. People who are disciplined and care about what they do are also very good at it, but in Japan even a part-time worker balancing high school and McDonald's conducts themselves like a host at a high-end restaurant. That Sung, an African man who was staying with me, came rushing in the first week he was staying with me and woke me up. He was extremely excited that there was a garbage truck with a motorized arm and was picking up the wheelie bins as it went down the street. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? He kept exclaiming over and over again, amazing, amazing. It made me laugh very hard, but he was a lovely guy. Wow, thank you so much for all the karma. Did not expect this small but sentimental memory to affect so many people. South African here. The thought of a garbage truck with a motorized arm literally blows my mind. There's absolutely no rules here that state where our bins should be placed, which I imagine is the foundation you need before you can have a truck pick them up by itself.
Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Tell me what you dislike or love about this video, so please comment below and hit the bell icon so you're notified anytime a new video is released. This is a WeCrow Media production.